James froze in the pulsing glow of the company party. His wife, Emily, laughed too warmly with her boss, Kevin, their hands brushing over cocktails. Her smile, brighter than he'd seen in years, pierced his heart. Was this the truth he'd been ignoring? He was silent when he found out about her betrayal. But what he did next made her cry on her knees. If you're in favor of fair retribution, sign up. In the vibrant heart of Seattle, James Clark, a 32-year-old lawyer, lived what many call the American dream. His career at a top-tier law firm was on a steep upward trajectory. Each case he won a stepping stone toward partnership. He and Emily, his 30-year-old wife, had settled into a cozy home in Capitol Hill, a neighborhood alive with coffee shops and eclectic charm. Emily, a rising star in the marketing department of a tech giant, brought energy and ambition to everything she did. Their life together was a tapestry of shared moments. Weekend brunches at Pike Place Market, evening walks along Puget Sound, and late-night talks about their future. They were the couple everyone envied, their laughter echoing through their tastefully decorated home, a blend of modern art and vintage finds that reflected their shared taste. But beneath the surface, cracks had begun to form. James's long hours at the firm often stretched into the night, his phone buzzing with emails while Emily waited at home. She threw herself into her career, chasing recognition in a competitive industry. Her projects grew more demanding, pulling her into late meetings and weekend events. Their once lively conversations dwindled, replaced by polite exchanges and comfortable silences. James noticed Emily's growing distance, her brief texts, her distracted glances, but he chalked it up to work stress. He was building their future, he told himself, ensuring they'd never want for anything. Yet, in his focus on success, he missed the subtle signs that something was shifting. Emily, meanwhile, found herself drawn to the dynamic world of her workplace. Her boss, Kevin, a charismatic 40-year-old executive, had a knack for making everyone feel valued. He praised Emily's creativity, giving her high-profile projects that showcased her talent. His encouragement felt like a lifeline in a marriage that was starting to feel like a routine. Kevin's attention wasn't just professional. He'd linger after meetings, sharing stories over coffee, or inviting her to brainstorm over drinks. Emily, flattered by his confidence in her, began to rely on these moments to escape the quiet loneliness creeping into her life. She told herself it was harmless, a mentor recognizing her potential, but deep down, she felt a spark she hadn't in years. Their marriage wasn't broken, not yet, but it was fraying at the edges. James, consumed by his caseload, didn't see how much Emily craved connection. Emily, caught up in her career and Kevin's orbit, didn't realize how far she was drifting. They still loved each other, but love alone wasn't enough to bridge the growing gap. The Seattle skyline, with its twinkling lights, stood as a backdrop to their lives, beautiful, bustling, but unable to mend what was quietly unraveling. The company's annual gala was the event of the year, a glittering affair at a downtown venue with panoramic views of the city. Emily had been talking about it for weeks, her excitement palpable. James, swamped with a high-stakes case, told her he couldn't make it. Emily didn't push, though a flicker of disappointment crossed her face. She dressed carefully that night, choosing a sleek dress that hugged her frame, her makeup accentuating her natural glow. She wanted to shine, not just for her colleagues, but for herself, to feel alive in a life that was starting to feel gray. James, finishing his work early for once, decided to surprise her. He hadn't been the husband she deserved lately, and he wanted to make it right. Dressed in a sharp blazer, he arrived at the gala, his heart light with anticipation. The venue was alive with music and laughter, the crowd buzzing with energy. He scanned the room for Emily, expecting to see her chatting with colleagues. Instead, he spotted her near the bar, her laughter ringing out as she stood close to Kevin. Their hands brushed as they clinked glasses, their body language too familiar, too intimate. James's stomach dropped. This wasn't the Emily he knew, or was it? Her smile, so unguarded, was one he hadn't seen in months. Kevin leaned in, whispering something that made her laugh again, and James felt the ground shift beneath him. Was this just a moment, Or had he been blind to something deeper? James stood rooted to the spot, the gala's music fading into a dull hum. Emily's laughter with Kevin echoed in his mind, each note twisting the knife deeper. He wanted to confront them, to demand answers, but his feet wouldn't move. Instead, he slipped out of the venue, the cool Seattle night air hitting him like a slap. Driving home, his thoughts spiraled. Had he missed something? Was this why Emily had been so distant? The image of her unguarded smile haunted him, a stark contrast to the strained moments they'd shared lately. Back at their Capitol Hill home, James sat in the dark, the silence heavy. Emily returned hours later, her face paling when she saw him on the couch. "James, you're home," she said, her voice tight. She set her purse down, avoiding his gaze. "I didn't expect you at the party. I wanted to surprise you," he said, his tone even but laced with hurt. "But it seems I was the one surprised. What was that with Kevin, Emily? You two look close." Emily's eyes widened, a flicker of guilt crossing her face. "It was nothing, James. Just a conversation. He's my boss. We were catching up." Her words came too quickly, her hands fidgeting with her bracelet. James leaned forward, searching her face. "That wasn't just catching up. I saw how you laughed, how he touched your hand. Tell me I'm wrong." She hesitated, her silence louder than any confession. "You're overthinking it," she said finally, but her voice lacked conviction. "It was a party. Everyone was relaxed. I'm sorry if it looked wrong." James wanted to believe her, but the doubt gnawed at him. "I know what I saw, Emily. If there's something going on, I deserve to know." "There's nothing to know," she insisted, her tone sharper now. She turned away, heading upstairs. "I'm tired, James. Can we talk tomorrow?" He let her go, the distance between them growing with each step. The next few days were strained, their home a battleground of unspoken tension. James tried to focus on work, but his mind replayed the gala endlessly. Emily's explanations felt hollow, her quick deflections only fueling his unease. He noticed small things now, her phone lighting up with late-night texts, her hurried excuses about work events. He didn't want to be the paranoid husband, but the signs were mounting. One evening, while Emily was at a team meeting, James's phone buzzed with an anonymous message. It was a photo. Emily and Kevin at a sleek downtown restaurant, their heads bent close, her hand resting on his arm. The timestamp was recent, too recent. James's heart raced, anger and betrayal surging. This wasn't a one-off moment at a party. Something was happening, and he couldn't ignore it anymore. He confronted Emily that night, the photo burning a hole in his pocket. "Explain this," he said, holding up his phone. Her face crumpled as she saw the image, her hands trembling. "James, it's not what you think," she started, but her voice wavered. "Then what is it?" he pressed, his calm facade cracking. "Because it looks like you're lying to me. You and Kevin, what's going on?" Emily sank onto the couch, her eyes glistening. "He's been pushing me," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "He said I could lead a major campaign if I supported his projects. I thought it was just work, but he's been crossing lines, inviting me to dinners, acting too familiar. I didn't know how to handle it." James's jaw tightened. "Did you tell him to stop? Did you report this?" "I tried," she said, tears spilling over. "But he's my boss, James. I was scared of losing my job. I messed up, okay? I let it go too far." Her words hit like a punch. James felt a mix of fury and heartbreak. Not just at Emily, but at Kevin, who'd exploited his position. "You should have told me," he said, his voice low. "We're supposed to be a team." "I know," she whispered. "I'm sorry." James walked away, needing space to process. Emily's admission was a start, but it wasn't enough. He couldn't shake the feeling that she was still holding back, that the trust they'd built was crumbling. As he stared out at the Seattle skyline, he knew one thing. He couldn't let this slide. Kevin's actions weren't just personal. They were wrong, and James wasn't about to let him get away with it. The days after Emily's admission were a blur of tension in their Capitol Hill home. James and Emily moved around each other like strangers, their conversations clipped and cautious. James couldn't look at her without seeing that photo, her hand on Kevin's arm, their smiles too close. Her apology echoed in his mind, but it didn't erase the sting of her secrecy. He wanted to trust her, to believe she'd been manipulated, but doubt clung to him like damp Seattle mist. At work, James struggled to focus. His colleagues noticed his distraction, but he brushed off their concern, burying himself in case files. Yet every quiet moment brought questions. How long had this been going on? Had Emily been honest about Kevin's pressure, or was she protecting herself? The uncertainty was suffocating. He started paying closer attention to Emily's routine, her late nights, her guarded phone calls. One evening, while she showered, he glanced at her phone, hating himself for it. A text from Kevin popped up. "Need you at the client dinner tomorrow." Big opportunity. James's stomach churned. Opportunity for what? He didn't confront her that night, choosing instead to dig deeper. At a local coffee shop, he met Sarah, a former colleague of Emily's who'd left the company months ago. Over lattes, Sarah confirmed his suspicions. "Kevin's got a reputation," she said, stirring her drink. "He picks favorites, showers them with praise, then pushes boundaries. I saw him do it with Emily. Extra meetings, private lunches." She seemed flattered at first, but I warned her to be careful. James's grip tightened on his cup. Did she listen? Sarah shook her head. She said she could handle it. The revelation hit hard. Emily hadn't just been a victim. She'd chosen to engage, at least initially. James felt a surge of betrayal, but also a spark of resolve. Kevin wasn't just crossing lines with Emily. He was abusing his power, likely with others too. This wasn't just about their marriage anymore. It was about right and wrong. Back home, James overheard Emily on a call, her voice low. "Kevin, I told you, I can't do these dinners anymore," she said, frustration clear. "I need space." A pause, then, "Don't make this harder than it is." She hung up, unaware James was listening from the hallway. Her words gave him a flicker of hope. She was pushing back, but they also confirmed Kevin's persistence. Why hadn't she gone to HR? Was she still protecting her career, or something else? The next day, James took a risk. He visited Emily's company, posing as a client to get a read on Kevin. The sleek office buzzed with activity, but Kevin's corner suite radiated authority. Through the glass, James saw him laughing with a young employee, his hand lingering on her shoulder. The pattern was clear. James left before anyone noticed, his mind racing. Kevin wasn't just a problem for Emily. He was a predator hiding behind a polished title. That night, James sat Emily down. "I talked to Sarah," he said, watching her reaction. Her face fell, but she didn't interrupt. "She told me about Kevin's history, and I saw him today, working his charm on someone else. This isn't just about us, Emily. He's dangerous, and you're letting him get away with it." Emily's eyes filled with tears. "I know I screwed up, James. I thought I could manage him, keep it professional. But he kept pushing dinners, late calls, promises about my career. I felt trapped. Then why didn't you report him?" James asked, his voice steady but firm. "I was scared," she admitted. "He's powerful. People love him. I thought no one would believe me." James leaned forward, his lawyer's instincts kicking in. "They'll believe you if you have proof. Emails, texts, witnesses. You're not alone in this, but you have to act. If you don't, he'll keep doing this, to you, to others." Emily nodded, wiping her eyes. "I want to fix this, James. Not just for us, but because it's right. I don't know where to start." "I'll help you," he said, his tone softening. "But you have to be all in. No more secrets." She agreed, a weight lifting between them. James knew their marriage was still on shaky ground, but for the first time, he saw a path forward. Not just for them, but to stop Kevin's manipulation. The fight was bigger than their pain, and James was ready to take it on, one calculated step at a time. James woke with a clarity he hadn't felt in weeks. The pain of Emily's betrayal still lingered, but her willingness to confront Kevin gave him purpose. Their Capitol Hill home, once a silent battleground, now hummed with cautious collaboration. Over coffee, they mapped out a plan. Emily would gather evidence, texts, emails, anything showing Kevin's oversteps, while James, with his legal expertise, would guide her on approaching HR. Trust was fragile, but this shared goal tethered them. Emily spent days combing through her phone and work laptop, her hands shaking as she screenshot messages. Kevin's words were subtle but damning. Dinner tonight? It'll help your pitch. Or, you're my star. Let's keep this between us. She found an email where he'd promised her a lead role on a campaign if she stayed on his team. Each piece felt like a betrayal of her own judgment. She'd let ambition blind her. Handing the files to James, she braced for his reaction. He scanned them, his jaw tight but his voice steady. "This is enough to start," he said. "You're doing the right thing." James reached out to a friend in employment law, discreetly asking about workplace harassment protocols. He learned that Emily needed corroboration, other employees who'd faced Kevin's tactics. Emily hesitated, fearing backlash, but James pushed gently. "You're not just protecting yourself," he reminded her. "Think of the others he's targeted." She nodded, steeling herself. At work, Emily approached Mia, a quiet colleague who'd always seemed uneasy around Kevin. Over lunch in a bustling Seattle cafe, Mia opened up. "He did the same to me," she whispered. "Late-night texts, special projects. I quit a project to avoid him." Mia agreed to share her story with HR if Emily led the charge. Another co-worker, Raj, overheard and joined them, admitting Kevin had pressured him into unpaid overtime with promises of promotions. The pattern was undeniable. With 3 accounts and Emily's evidence, they drafted a formal complaint. James reviewed every word, ensuring it was airtight. Emily's heart raced as she submitted it to HR, her finger hovering over the send button. "What if they don't believe us?" she asked James that night, curled up on their couch. "They will," he said, squeezing her hand. "And if they don't, we escalate. I'm with you." His support felt like a lifeline, though the shadow of their strained marriage loomed. HR launched an investigation, and the office buzzed with whispers. Kevin, sensing trouble, cornered Emily in the break room. "You're making a mistake," he said, his smile cold. "This could ruin your career." Emily stood tall, her voice firm. "No, Kevin, you made the mistake." She walked away, adrenaline coursing through her. When she told James, he felt a surge of pride and a flicker of hope for them. James wasn't done. He filed a civil claim against Kevin for intentional infliction of emotional distress, a bold move to hold him accountable beyond the company. His lawyer friend warned it was a long shot, but James saw it as leverage to expose Kevin's behavior. He spent nights researching case law, channeling his pain into strategy. The process forced him to confront his own role in their marriage's drift, his absence, his focus on work. In a quiet moment, he started therapy, seeking tools to rebuild himself, whether with Emily or alone. Emily, too, began therapy, grappling with her choices. She'd chased validation from Kevin, mistaking it for success, and hurt the man she loved. Each session peeled back layers of guilt, helping her rediscover her strength. She threw herself into a new project at work, one free of Kevin's influence, and found purpose in mentoring Mia. Her actions spoke louder than her apologies, and James noticed. As HR's investigation deepened, Kevin's charm unraveled. More employees came forward, their stories mirroring Emily's. The pressure mounted, and Kevin's polished facade cracked. One evening, he called James, his tone dripping with arrogance. "You think you can take me down?" he sneered. "I'll make sure Emily regrets this." James stayed calm, recording the call. "You're done, Kevin," he said. "The truth's out." He hung up, the threat fueling his resolve. The tide was turning, but James and Emily knew the hardest part was still ahead. Their marriage hung by a thread, and Kevin's desperation could spark retaliation. Yet for the first time, they felt like partners again, united against a common wrong. The Seattle skyline glowed outside their window, a reminder that even in darkness, they could find a way forward. The HR investigation concluded swiftly, and the verdict shook the company. Kevin's pattern of manipulation, documented by Emily, Mia, Raj, and others, was undeniable. He was terminated, his reputation in Seattle's tech scene shattered. Whispers of his downfall spread, ensuring he'd struggle to reclaim his influence. Emily felt a weight lift, but the victory was bittersweet. She'd exposed a wrong, but the cost to her marriage lingered. HR reassigned Emily to a new department, where she thrived under a supportive manager. She poured her energy into ethical marketing campaigns, mentoring younger colleagues like Mia to navigate workplace challenges. Therapy helped her unpack her choices, why she'd chased Kevin's validation, why she'd risked her marriage. She wrote James a letter, not expecting forgiveness, but needing to own her mistakes. "I lost myself," she wrote, "but I'm fighting to be someone you'd respect again." She didn't send it, tucking it away as a promise to herself. James's civil claim against Kevin succeeded, the court awarding modest damages. He donated every cent to a local nonprofit supporting workplace harassment victims, a gesture that drew quiet praise from his peers. The win wasn't about money, it was about justice. At a charity event, James spoke briefly, his voice steady. "No one should feel trapped by power," he said, his words resonating with survivors in the crowd. The applause felt like a step toward healing. Their Capitol Hill home grew quieter as James and Emily faced their future. Late one night, over tea, they talked openly. "I'm proud of you," James said, his eyes soft but guarded. "You did what was right, but I can't pretend we're the same." Emily nodded, tears brimming. "I know. I broke us, and I'll carry that. But want to try, even if it's just as friends for now." James considered her words. Therapy had shown him his own flaws, his absence, his blind trust. He still loved Emily, but love wasn't enough without trust. "I need time," he said. "Maybe we can rebuild something, but it won't be what we had." Emily agreed, respecting his honesty. They decided to separate, not out of anger, but clarity. James moved to a sleek apartment downtown, its view of the Space Needle a fresh start. Emily stayed in their home, redecorating it to reflect her rediscovered identity. Months later, James found purpose beyond his law firm. He volunteered with a nonprofit, leading workshops on workplace rights. Colleagues noticed his renewed focus, and he earned a promotion, his calm strength inspiring others. Emily excelled in her new role, earning respect for her integrity. She spoke at a company panel about ethical leadership, her story carefully anonymized, encouraging others to speak up. One rainy Seattle evening, they met for coffee at their old favorite cafe. The air was light, free of the tension that once choked them. "You look happy," Emily said, stirring her latte. James smiled, a real one. "I'm getting there." "You too." She nodded. "Learning to be." They parted with a hug, no promises but a shared understanding. Their paths had diverged, but they'd each found peace. James walked home through Pike Place, the market's bustle grounding him. He'd lost a marriage but gained himself, stronger, wiser, unafraid to stand for what's right. Emily, back at her desk, sketched ideas for a campaign about empowerment, her pen steady. They'd both faced their demons, emerging not whole, but hopeful. Seattle's skyline sparkled, a testament to their resilience. Justice had prevailed, not with vengeance, but with truth, leaving them free to write new chapters, apart but forever shaped by their shared fight.